Deadpool breaks R-rated record as woke Marvel, Star Wars, and Snow White collapse. Coming from the Hollywood Reporter box office milestone, Deadpool and Wolverine becomes top-grossing R-rated picture of all time. But even though Disney has a hit with their Deadpool movie, they're getting crushed everywhere else where they're still putting out woke content. From Breitbart, Marvel, Star Wars shows losing popularity on Disney+. There's a bigger extensive article on this on The Wrap. And they talk about how, as time has gone on, Disney has lost more and more interest for their Marvel and their Star Wars franchises, leading Star Wars really to the point of no return. And also from Breitbart, 735,000 downvotes for Disney's woke Snow White trailer, only 69,000 upvotes. 10 times as much, really more than that, of people who don't like this movie versus the people that say they do like this movie. Snow White is a movie that is iconic for Disney. They should not have remade this. And when they saw the negative feedback, they should have just canceled it. Rachel Zegler just can't help herself. Disney PR nightmare. Rachel Zegler declares free Palestine while promoting Snow White trailer. It's fine for her to have her own beliefs, but she needs to be careful about what she's promoting because there are two sides to most issues. And there's absolutely no reason for Hollywood actors to put themselves in the middle of controversial social issues while they're trying to promote something for their Hollywood studio. She's been a mess for them ever since she's gotten involved. From the Hollywood Reporter box office milestone, Deadpool and Wolverine top-grossing R-rated picture of all time. It's official. Marvel Studios and Disney's Deadpool and Wolverine has become the top-grossing R-rated film of all time at the global box office, not adjusted yet for inflation. Directed by Sean Levy, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, in what proved to be a stroke of casting magic, the movie shattered its latest and most important record on Thursday when passing up Todd Phillips' Joker. Reynolds first shared the news on social media. The Deadpool threequel finished Thursday with a global tally of $1.086 billion. That includes $516 million domestically and $568 million internationally. Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, in the titular role, grossed $1.079 billion in 2019, not adjusted for inflation. These are the only two R-rated movies to have crossed $1 billion, both comic book-based movies. Until Deadpool and Wolverine came along, Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, released 20 years ago, retained the crown for the top-grossing R-rated film domestically with more than $378 million in ticket sales. The audacious third outing in the Deadpool series that began its life at 20th Century Fox is a huge win for Reynolds, the mastermind behind the franchise, as well as for Marvel Studios and the superhero genre in general. It's the first superhero movie to cross $1 billion since Sony and Marvel's Spider-Man No Way Home, and that was 2.5 years ago, and the first Marvel Disney MCU pick to cross the $1 billion threshold since Avengers Endgame in 2019, which is when Disney went far off track with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I always liked the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but that's not what I'm talking about. Deadpool joined the $1 billion box office club last weekend and tied with the Avengers to become the fourth fastest MCU title to speed past $1 billion in 19 days. Avengers Endgame tops the list, pulling it off in 5 days, followed by Avengers Infinity War in 11 days and Spider-Man No Way Home in 12 days. It's the 55th movie to clear the $1 billion mark, the 31st Disney title to do so, including 3 20th Century Fox films inherited in the larger Disney-Fox merger, and the 11th MCU movie, including 2 Sony Spider-Man films, Homecoming and No Way Home. It's the second film of the year so far to join the $1 billion club, after sister Disney Pixar film Inside Out 2, which now tops the chart of the top-grossing animated film of all time, with nearly $1.6 billion in global ticket sales. Disney is the only studio to ever deliver back-to-back billion-dollar films in any given year. Deadpool and Wolverine has smashed one record after another since debuting over the July 26th to 28th weekend, including quickly passing the entire lifetime runs of the first 2 Deadpool films, both domestically and globally, after just 2 weekends in theaters. Deadpool's domestic earnings were $363 million for a global total of $782 million worldwide. The second film's domestic haul was $318 million for a worldwide total of $734 million. As to how far it can ultimately climb, most are predicting that the movie will land between $1.2 billion and $1.3 billion, giving credence to Reynolds' theory that he and the filmmaker succeeded in making the first 4-quadrant R-rated film. Which is to say, people of all kinds are attracted to seeing Deadpool and Wolverine and seeing it more than once. On to the Disney Plus disaster for Marvel and Star Wars. Marvel and Star Wars shows losing popularity on Disney Plus. The black and rotted heart of Disney Plus has been its Marvel and Star Wars programs. The latest data reveals that those widely ridiculed streaming series are dropping in popularity. Quote, Disney Plus is experiencing diminishing returns from its high-profile Star Wars live-action series, according to The Wrap. The most recent live-action Star Wars shows have not been as impactful as earlier releases. People aren't watching them. Every time they put one out, it gets completely ridiculed and mocked online. Even if people did like them, it's embarrassing to be associated with or talking about things that everyone's making fun of. That's if people even actually like them, which of course there's not a lot to like. Quote, The Acolyte and Obi-Wan Kenobi had lower demand in their first 2 months compared with the first season of The Mandalorian in 2019, according to their report. Even the latest season of The Mandalorian, Season 3, failed to match the demand levels of its debut season. Mandalorian's first season had a demand peak almost twice the demand peak of the final episode of Season 3. Marvel is facing an even steeper demand drop. Between the second quarter of 2022 and the second quarter of this year, demand for Marvel programming on Disney Plus fell from 19% to 13%. This trend is also reflected in the platform's most popular shows. As of the second quarter of 2024, only 6 of the top 20 shows on Disney Plus were from Marvel or Star Wars franchises, down from 11 in the second quarter of 2022. Of note, the pace of new streaming releases for both franchises has also decreased at the same time. Meanwhile, Disney Channel shows have been filling the space left by these franchises, with titles such as Gravity Falls and The Owl House rising in popularity on the platform. Of course, the issue is what it always is, quality. The Mandalorian's a good example. Popular television shows tend to peak in seasons 4, 5, and 6. This is when word of mouth combined with the writer's familiarity with the characters kicks into high gear. The Mandalorian should still be peaking, should be a year or 2 from reaching its zenith, not dying, so what happened? The answer is this. A well-liked adventure show that introduced the iconic Baby Yoda character went woke and became obsessed with identity over storytelling. And like I often say, representation is not storytelling. Storytelling is actually making a point. It's incredibly persuasive. It doesn't mean you always agree with the author, but it means they get an opportunity to make their case to you. It's not a system set up where you can exploit your identity politics or any of your political agendas and not even structure it in a well-told story where things make sense and characters have limitations. Disney went in the complete wrong direction with this. And what's great is you have a huge success with Deadpool now. So it's in complete and total contrast with everything that's woke. Same thing with Inside Out 2, a complete and total contrast with everything else they were doing to try to push an agenda and to try to normalize things that are just not normal. All of those projects fail. While the on-brand, actually good projects, or at least traditionally good projects that keep their promise to what people think the content is actually going to be, actually go out and break records at the box office. Through obnoxious politicking, ham-fisted lectures, smug girl bosses, and a demonic desire to tear down everything that made Star Wars and Marvel cultural phenomenons, Disney has destroyed what were once the Golden Goose franchises that could do no wrong. And Disney will never stop. The Acolyte, with its lesbian witches, drove the Star Wars brand off the rails and straight into the dirt. No one asked for the gayest Star Wars yet, but that's what Disney's delivering. Before the woke Gestapo took the reins at Disney, the stock price sat at nearly $200 per share. Today it's worth less than half of that. It all comes down to quality. Woke is the destroyer of storytelling, and if you don't tell a good story, no one will watch, not even Marvel or Star Wars. Because it's not really Marvel and it's not really Star Wars if you don't tell a structured story. It's almost like an infomercial. It's unwatchable. Except infomercials are actually sometimes fun to watch. Not to be outdone is Disney's other pending disaster, 735,000 downvotes for Disney's woke Snow White trailer, only 69,000 upvotes. Disney released a trailer for its upcoming live-action Snow White and Seven Dwarfs remake. Yes, they're actually still putting this movie out, even though, of course, they didn't have to do this. They could have just delayed it. They could have written it off. It wasn't that much money for them. But really, their entire reputation and their credibility is resting on this film. And they have a star, Rachel Zegler, who just keeps getting into trouble and won't shut up on social media. With nearly 6.7 million views on YouTube, the downvotes outnumber the upvotes by 10 times. For context, the trailer for Disney's 2023 mega flop The Marvels at least came in pretty close to even, with 537,000 upvotes and 570,000 downvotes. Part of the negativity around Snow White undoubtedly has to do with all the controversy around the movie. Instead of promoting her movie, Snow White star, the insufferable Rachel Zegler, spent most of her time attacking the original beloved 1937 classic as sexist and dated. Little Miss Smug assured everyone that her Snow White would be empowered and improved and would correct everything wrong with the original. No Prince Charming would be stalking Rachel Zegler's Snow White. Then there was Disney's cowardly decision to cave to Peter Dinklage. Dinklage is a midget who went public to address his outrage at the very idea of Snow White casting other midgets as the dwarves. On top of being a very good actor, Peter's pretty slick. There's nothing wrong with casting dwarves as dwarves. He knows that. So the cunning actor employed a little sensitivity fascism to ensure no other little people would break out in Snow White and then compete with him for roles in other film and TV projects. The dummies at Disney caved in 86 the dwarves under the absurd idea that the best way to show tolerance for midgets is to never hire them. Instead, Snow White would meet magical beings. When photos leaked of these magical beings on the Daily Mail, well, let's just say that woke makes you stupid. At this point, Disney knew they had a box office catastrophe on their hands and delayed the release of Snow White from March 2024 to March 2025. Zegler was likely told to shut her smug mouth. Then at great cost, the movie was retooled, and the result is this garish piece of $300 million nothingness, the money they wasted on producing this movie to destroy their reputation. So the dwarves take in Snow White, and the smug girl boss shows her appreciation by making them clean up. Isn't Snow White supposed to be sympathetic? One person on Twitter put it perfectly, quote, "Wow, this version of Snow White is an entitled brat." Another wrote, "Wow, she can't even clean up. Is she paying rent at least?" If you can recall, in the original Snow White, with the help of her animal friends, Snow White shows her appreciation to the seven dwarfs and agrees to pull her weight for the free food and rent by cleaning the house. And this is a house she broke into. What's more, this whole sequence was about a bigger theme involving how much men and women need one another. The dwarfs provide for her. She civilizes them. That's how the sexes work in normal and civilized society. Now only a dummy would take that message literally. Men work, women clean. It's not that at all. The sequence is a metaphor. Men protect. We're bigger. We're wired that way. But on our own, we're Neanderthals. Women make us better. It's true. Women could do things that men can't do, and men could do things that women can't do. There's nothing wrong with that. It dehumanizes us to tell us that women and men are both not special in their own way. They are. This dehumanization is everywhere now. So reject it all. Reject it all. When they take away your humanity, they do even worse things. And the comments on YouTube are great. People actually see what's going on. So you're telling me that Magic Mirror is going to choose Rachel Zegler over Gal Gadot as the fairest of them all? That is a fairy tale. Snow White 2025. I don't need any man. The Prince. That's fine. I'm here for your stepmom. As a child, I was waiting for Disney cartoons. Now I'm waiting for the comment section and thumbs down. 7 little people have to feed their families instant noodles for years thanks to Peter Dinklage. Because they could have got jobs and they could have made money, and even when this movie flops, they still would have got paid pretty well. I haven't seen so many people rooting for an apple before. Snow White breaks into a stranger's house and instructs and oversees them cleaning their house. That's inappropriate. Y'all really thought we would forget? Also, why'd y'all make this version of Snow White to be a lazy squatter who forced the dwarves to clean up their own home? That's not a way to get a roof over your head, nor food in your stomach, and by those who want to protect you in their own home. This movie is going to fail. Disney's lost control of Pixar. It's now making mainstream movies again. Disney's now also lost control of Marvel. It doesn't mean they won't still have a flop here or there. There are things that are well into production that could still flop. However, they're likely making some serious changes to every pending Marvel project as quickly as they can to fit in with the new Deadpool type of aesthetic. Not every Marvel show is going to be great. Not every Marvel movie is going to be great. It's not all going to feel like it's a Deadpool movie. It's not even supposed to feel that way. But they are going to stop it with the ideological propaganda if the success of Deadpool has anything to say about it. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.